This exhibition is actually a two-person exhibition. It's Carlos Almaraz and his wife Elsa Flores Almaraz. Carlos died of AIDS-related causes in 1989, and he concurrently has a retrospective exhibition of his paintings at the LA County Museum, curated by Howard Fox. All the works come from the estate, and we are pairing Carlos with his wife Elsa in an exhibition called Domestic, which addresses their life together. In fact, this is a pastel that belongs to their daughter Maya. This is Maya floating in the sky, and this is a painting by Carlos called Fatherhood. And over here we have a painting of a teacup by Carlos and a painting of Maya's chair by Elsa. So all these are domestic themes. In fact, the chair painting by Elsa hung in their kitchen for many years. There's so much to say about both of them. Carlos is probably, I think, the grandfather, the kind of the spiritual leader of the whole Chicano arts movement. Like I said, he was with Gilbert Lujan, Robert de la Rocha, and Frank Romero, part of Los Four. But later in the late 70s, early 80s, he decided he didn't want to be pigeonholed as a Chicano artist, so he wanted to be considered an artist, period. And that's when he began to show his work at Jan Turner Gallery in West Hollywood, and his art career really took off. For example, pastels I think are some of his best work. This one has curtains on the side, which suggests that the whole work is on a stage, and a lot of times he'll do that to allegorize and create symbols. Many things that he reuses, like the floating pyramids and the cups. In that way he has a little bit of a Chagall-like quality of figures and things floating in space. This element here is like a Spanish Inquisition torture element, which this is towards the end of Carlos's life when he realized that he had AIDS and he was struggling with that. There's a lot of persecution and also sense of Catholic guilt of leaving his family and things like that are incorporated into his work. One of the things that we learned from this exhibition is how important of an influence Elsa was on Carlos in her use of thick paint. If you look at the small chair painting, Elsa used a very, very heavy paint, which Carlos didn't until they started to share a studio together. This is an example of Elsa's work, her very heavy paint, and it was done right after Carlos died in 1989, and she's showing his spirit emanating from the top of his head, and a skeleton over here. Both he and Elsa grappled with his impending death in their work. This is a painting by Carlos called Dunce's Dream. It was done towards the end of his life, and it addresses his thoughts about his demise. Here he is as the dunce or the jester, which he often depicted himself as, because he saw the jester as someone who's performing for an audience, but also in medieval times, the jester played the fool, but was probably the smartest one in the room. And so that's Carlos, and he's sitting on a yellow chair, which became a symbol for him throughout his work of time. So he is sitting on time, and the death or the snake is entwined below him, connecting him to his wife Elsa, who is holding an hourglass, which again is suggesting time and the passing of time, and eventually the finishing of the sand through the hourglass and his death. And she's holding a candle and leaving while he is dreaming of his perhaps next life, and he's dreaming of the castles in the sky, burning castles in the sky, which he's leaving behind, his daughter, Maya, and here they are on the beach. They had a home in Kauai, which they spent a lot of time at. Elsa still lives there. And you have a fiddling devilish angel here, and you have a couple looking out over the beach, and an angel. Then this ray of hope or light of someone bringing a candle in the other side of the stage. Here we have three pieces. This one is by Carlos, pastel. This is a painted photograph by Elsa, and this is a painting by Elsa. And the reason I put these together is that it clearly addresses the theme of domesticity. This is Carlos nude on the couch that Elsa painted over. There's one of Carlos's paintings hanging behind him, and she created this halo around him, which both of them are very spiritual, kind of mystical people. And it even suggests a little bit the Virgin of Guadalupe. It almost looks like the Virgin of Guadalupe on his side. And I put that with the camera painting because this is a painted photograph, and that's an example of Elsa's very lush, delicious, thick, heavy paint. And then these two pieces are set side by side because this is Elsa's depiction of Carlos on a couch, and this is Carlos's depiction of Elsa on a big heavy chair with kind of sparkly Lucy in the sky with diamonds sort of twinkling eyes, which Carlos also has. Both of them have this emanation of sparkle and spirit.